What's the difference between nerves and lack of skill? And how can a person tell which one they're dealing with when they're starting to study acting, or if they want to start doing talks or anything like that?
Nerves and lack of skill. Well, that's actually a really big question. Because lack of skill there are kind of two ways. Well, there's probably more than two ways, but there's multiple ways that lack of skill can go. There can be lack of skill and you have a lack of skill, and therefore you're getting nervous because you know that you're not prepared or you know that you're not ready. And then there's lack of skill, and it's that kind of, you don't know what you don't know. So there's lack of skill and we have false confidence. And then we're kind of, talking on or producing stuff or teaching on stuff that maybe we shouldn't be teaching on or talking on. So, and then there's nerves in another sort of adjacent bucket that overlaps with, potentially the whole lack of skill thing, because then you've got lack of skill and then you've got skill, right? So you can have lack of skill and you can have skill and you can still get nervous either way. Right. So I would say, like, for myself, I have a certain level of skill in what I do, but I still get nervous.
Sure.
I still get anxious about things. I worry about whether I've prepared all the things I needed to prepare, whether I've, particularly if I'm doing something that I haven't done before, if I'm doing a presentation or a training that I haven't actually executed before, that I've designed and that I've done pieces of in other parts, but I haven't done this specific one, I'll get nervous and I'll get worried about, is it going to work? Are these pieces going to fit together? I think when you're at the early stages of your skills building, or when you're in that sort of beginning phase of, let's say you're new to leadership or you're new to a front-facing position, it's not necessarily that you don't have skill yet, but you might not have had to execute what you now need to do with the skill that you have.
Or translate that skill into the job you need to
into accomplish. Now I have to be in front of people and put all this together, and now I have to guide people, and instead of just doing my own thing and being really good at it, now I'm in this other position. And nerves can really come up anywhere at all.
But sometimes out of nowhere.
And often out of nowhere. Right? Exactly. Often out of nowhere. And often, if I speak for myself, sometimes nerves come up for me almost as a, wait, you're not nervous. We should immediately be nervous right now, because if you're not nervous, something's wrong. Something's going to go wrong. You should be nervous right now. So I have this kind of, I've actually, in a session with a psychologist many years ago, he said, you realize that you booked an appointment with me. This is when I was about to have my first daughter. You booked this appointment with me before you had the baby because you thought you were going to be anxious after having the baby. I was like, yeah. It's like, so you're kind of predicting your own anxiety. You're in some ways creating the pathway.
Right. So I was like, what can we call that? So if metacognition is thinking about your thinking, what is getting nervous about getting nervous?
Getting nervous, yeah. I don't know, but I'm really good at it. But that's also why that's one of the reasons I think why I started doing what I do in terms of working outside of more creative context. So working with professionals and academics and stuff is because that's the biggest thing that I hear about from people who are not performers is it's just so terrifying to speak in front of people. It's just, people are literally debilitated by their nerves. And I've had those experiences too. But I never really used to get super nervous as a performer. So it was always this kind of a little bit of an anomaly to me of like, why did people get so nervous? You do your preparation, and that's probably why I didn't get nervous, because I was so like anal retentive about my preparation. I had to do all of the things, and I was like the model student of preparation, of actor preparation.
Yeah.
So that when I went on stage, I knew exactly what I had to do, when I had to do it.
You were prepared.
Yeah, and so I didn't. It was fun. That was the fun part, was getting on stage under the lights. And so then I actually did do a show that I wasn't well prepared for, and I got the nerves.
Oh, wow.
And I got the stage fright, and I got the dropping lines on stage, and I got the feeling like I was forgetting entire scenes while I'm in front of an audience with other actors, looking other actors in their eyes, begging for their help, because I just didn't know what was coming next. And that was really, I think, probably one of the points where I went, that's what that is.
That was a lesson, right?
That's that feeling.
Yeah, yeah.
And that particular experience, it was partly my fault, but it was also partly the content. It wasn't a well-written play. It was kind of a clunky rehearsal process. It wasn't like a clear cut, well managed, perhaps, production.
Yeah.
And so it kind of was really discombobulating for me, because I'd come from...
So it wasn't what you were used to.
It wasn't what I was used to.
Okay.
And I think...
But that's a valuable skill too, because expecting that each scenario, whether you're an actor or a speaker or whatever, expecting that any scenario is going to be what you're used to is kind of silly, right?
Yeah.
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 And
so that was a lesson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And building, so a lesson in, one, preparation, but two, the flexibility of that preparation, and building.
That's kind of, I guess, what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Like building that. I can only plan so much, and then the rest of it is, it's going to be what it's going to be. And I think when I work with like speakers and people in the corporate world and academics and grad students and stuff, that's more what they're dealing with. Is there's a lot more, I don't know how this is going to go, because they don't they don't know how the crowd is going to respond. They don't know how the people that they're trying to train are going to respond. And in some cases it's more interactive, or it's more
and people generally, I think, in general, don't rehearse those scenarios. I know people that do, and they're fucking amazing at what they do, because they're giving it that extra attention, that extra time. But I feel like most people don't actually rehearse those things. They might write it and they might speak it out to themselves, but they rarely... What made me think of this, I didn't buy one, but the Apple Vision Pro thing actually has a feature in it that like puts you into a boardroom.
Oh, wow.
And it's like you're in a boardroom, and you can practice a talk or give a speech and do all that as if you've got the whiteboard behind you and all of that. And I just thought that was so cool and so useful.
It's definitely...
Albeit virtual, but...
Yeah, it's definitely one of the pieces that I touch upon when I work with people who are in those kind of fields, is there has to be preparation. If you want it to be easier, and if you want to not be as nervous, and if you want to feel more prepared, then you have to be more prepared. Right. So and that's beyond your expertise.
So in order to feel prepared, you've got to be prepared.
Yeah.
So that's the first step.
Yeah.
Why is that so hard for us to... Is it procrastination, or do you think some people literally just think that they're more prepared than they are?
I think it's not being taught any technical ways of preparing. I think it's, in many cases, there's just an expectation that you'll be able to speak in front of people, that you've done your, I don't know, engineering degree, you've done your marketing degree, you've done your sales degree, you've done your business degree, you'll be able to talk in front of people. Maybe you've had a public speaking course, but in many cases, those public speaking courses depending on who's taught them, tend to focus on content, on how to put together presentations, on how to write stuff.
Right.
Whereas what I do is the actual execution piece. So when I'm talking about preparation, I'm talking about, yeah, of course, you're going to know, you're going to have your slides, you're going to do all your things and have your graphics and whatever you're going to use. You've got to know the words that you're saying. But you also have to know how to actually deliver the information, how to actually be confident, how to use your voice, how to be physically present in the moment when you're actually doing the thing. And that's often the piece that doesn't get taught. And it's often the piece that trips people up because they don't know why it's hard. They don't know why it feels uncomfortable. And it feels uncomfortable because they're not in their bodies, because they've never been taught how to get in their bodies. They've never been taught how to actually become more aware of their voice and aware of how what they do with their voice changes the way they communicate.
Well, and this is so important because, and this will kind of circle back to the original question, but it's not always the people who know the most or are the best at what they do that are best at communicating about what they do.
100%.
Right. So then it ends up where people either have the skills and they have the skills, but they don't have the nerves, or they have the nerves, but they have the skills. And I guess reconciling those two is the challenge, right?
Yeah.
Is getting those, finding where those two things meet in the Venn diagram, right?
And a lot of the time, what I come across, and again, I did for a couple of years. I did several workshops with grad students who they're really into their work. They're really passionate about their work. You know, they're grad students. That's the thing they're doing. That one thing is the thing that they are experts on what they're doing.
Yeah. And
part of what I was trying to teach them was that that's the cool thing. You are the expert. You are the one that knows the most about this. It's your research. So now what we have to do is figure out, how do you communicate the amazingness of that to someone else?
Is it storytelling?
I think it is definitely partly storytelling, and it depends on the context too. So with grad students, there's multiple different contexts that they might be needing to present on their research. And so a part of it is kind of going, okay, well, who is the audience? But this is another thing with any public speaking or any communication. It's, who are you speaking to?
Right.
What is the situation? What's the context? Because if you're speaking in front of, a group of colleagues and it's some kind of competitive type situation where whoever gives the best presentation is the winner, that's one thing. If you're speaking at a conference, that's a very different scenario. If you're a business person speaking to, other business people, that's the context is really relevant. And so then the story that you're telling about whatever it is that you're talking about has to be relevant to that audience.
Right.
And it has to be presented in a way that's going to reach that audience.
Do you think people sometimes worry or focus on sounding or looking cool versus actually getting their point across?
Yes. I've seen it.
Yeah. What does that look like?
And they kind of put their attention on the wrong things, and I've seen it both in people I've worked with, and I've seen it in, just watching keynotes of, powerful business people or, leaders of organizations and stuff. And I just go, oh, you're trying to be funny.
Yeah.
But no one's here for you to be funny.
Yeah.
Everyone's here because you're the thought leader and they want to hear your thoughts. They're not, we don't need you to be a comedian. It's clearly not your strength. So don't try, and I'm all about...
There's a speech that happened recently that's coming to mind, actually.
It's probably several, right?
Oh, you're right, yeah.
But I think, I think it shows up in things like that. So trying to make jokes when you don't really need to, and when the timing isn't quite, or the feel or the climate isn't quite right for that moment.
Sure.
It shows up in strange body language or gesture that seems rehearsed. And that, to me,
you pick up on it.
I pick up on it. I don't know if other people pick up on it, but I look at it and I go, that's weird. Why are they doing that?
We may subconsciously, right?
Gesture is part of communication.
Sure.
Right?
So many people forget that.
And so, but this is kind
Someone
of...
say it's most of communication.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Right? Body language and tone of voice are actually right up there.
Mm-hmm.
More than what you say, which is kind of crazy.
Yep.
Which is also kind of why what I do is important, because that's the stuff that I'm dealing with, is how do we get your body to just be more organically responsive so that you don't have to plan your gestures and you don't have to feel so kind of imprisoned by your physicality and the awareness. And this is something that actors do too, right? Especially in the early stages of training, is you get in front of an audience and it's like you become hyper aware of your body.
Mm-hmm. And
all of a sudden it just doesn't work anymore because you're so hyper aware that people are looking at you and your arms just feel like lead. And, you know, it's this famous actor thing of, what do I do with my hands?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
What do I do with my hands? And it's because we kind of get into this deer in the headlights situation as opposed to just being able to focus on what we're there to do.
So what's physically happening when that happens to somebody? Like, do you know what's actually happening?
I think there's multiple theories.
Yeah,
I think
or what are some of them?
And I think it's different for different people. But what I observe is it's just that kind of classic self-consciousness, which tends to kind of, it's probably, you know, a nervous system response, a little bit of like baby fight or flight, fight, flight, freeze, maybe freeze.
Yeah. Well, like you even said, deer in headlights, right?
Yeah.
Holy
exactly.
shit. Yeah.
Now people are looking at me and all that sort of
They're
thing.
all expecting me to do something.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But this, again, is where the preparation is so important, because as part of your preparation, if you know why you're there and there's a purpose to what you're doing, that's where your attention goes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what, when I'm working with actors, that's what I'm teaching them how to do is, so when you get in front of people, all your attention goes on yourself. All of your attention goes on yourself. You freeze, you become like a little robot automaton that doesn't have hands.
Yeah.
Or you don't know how to actually behave naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And so what our process is getting them in their body and getting them to focus outside of themselves.
Which is the opposite of what people, I think, would expect, maybe. Because I think,
Yeah.
I don't want to focus on everyone out there.
Mm-hmm.
Picture everyone in their underwear, they say,
Yeah,
right?
all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the wrong thing to do.
I mean...
Or that's the right thing to do, is to focus on them versus focus internally.
But I think the picture everyone in their underwear thing is I think it's a simplification. It's an oversimplification of what could actually be a much more effective focal point, which is focus on what you want them to receive.
Right.
Focus on what you're giving them.
Yep.
Focus on how you want them to feel, what you want them to take away, right? So it's almost like whether the reason for you getting up and speaking is a teaching moment or not, you are teaching. You are sharing, you are giving. There's like a gift being shared.
I feel like that's super helpful, because that's what you should be thinking about in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what I think what happens is, even if we've prepared and we've written our presentation or decided what we're going to say and designed it to be helpful first,
Mm-hmm.
when we end up in that moment, all we can think about is not looking like a fool,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then we are switching things, so we're not thinking about the value.
Yeah.
We're thinking about how we look and how we're being judged.
And even just getting through it. I have to do this bit, then I have to do this bit, and then I have to do this bit. And none of that has anything to do with the people out there who are listening, who are the people that you actually want to be impacted by what you're saying. And then you might go away from it feeling like, well, nobody really responded to my talk, and I had all this great information, all these great tools for people, and they kind of, like, you know, they clapped at the end, but
you weren't
most of them
thinking
were
about them.
kind of on their phone, and because you weren't actually invested in I need you all to get this. I want you all to understand this. I want this to affect you and to inspire you. And it's that piece that really helps with the taking your attention off yourself and creating more of a sense of almost like a body climate of connection with other people.
That really lands, actually. I hope it does for the viewer as well, because that makes so much sense. Because even just seeing you do that, I can almost see your body relax because you've done it before. So I could like almost see your body relax, and I can kind of imagine like the times when I've spoken in front of a group and stuck to my script, and then times when that happens and I allow myself to just exhale and be like, this is what I want you guys to understand. And it allows you to actually go off script because you're connected
and you're prepared.
Right.
Because you've got like that preparation of, I know the information that I have to get to them.
So the preparation that's what breaks through the first layer. Like that's the foundation.
Yeah.
It is the preparation piece.
Yeah. Is the know your shit, right?
Right.
Know what it is that you're there to do. Know the content, and have, for me, I always kind of, if I'm putting something together for, a presentation or whatever, I have a plan, but then I always give myself a little, and this could go this way or it could go this way, depending on the room, depending on how I feel like people are responding. So now I actually always factor in the thought process of, if this lands, we can take it here. If this doesn't land, we're going to go straight here.
Yeah.
And it's about the other people. It's about the people in the room. It's about what I'm receiving as I'm giving. So I think there's a misconception of, public speaking, that it's all me, I'm the speaker. In acting, we talk about a relationship with the audience. The audience has a responsibility and the performers have a responsibility. And I think it's the same if you're doing a TED Talk or if you're giving a keynote.
Yeah.
If you see your audience as a communicative partner, it's a really different starting place from, I have to get up and talk in front of people.
So that makes me think of, so there's I feel like we're dancing around the idea of performing versus being or doing, and being like in the moment and really embodying being that character, or trying to connect to the audience to portray some information versus overly performing.
Yeah.
So, because some other people that I know who act, I guess I've never heard somebody call it anything other than performing or acting, but the way it's always been kind of talking to me is like, you have to so believe it to play a role. Like you have to really believe it and commit to it and become that person. And the way that I took it is that so as to not be performing, right?
Pretty much.
Because when
in order to perform,
right, you
don't
can't
perform.
Right.
You got to stop performing. And there's this term that comes up in actor training and theatre, and we talk about it often comes up around the audience. So the audience has to suspend their disbelief in order to sit in the audience and receive the play and be impacted by the play and go along with the story. And essentially what that just means is you can't sit in the audience and be kind of going, well, why is that actor sad? None of this is really real. It's not really happening. What's going on? Well, clearly that's a fake door.
Right.
I mean, what's happening here? You have to suspend that part of you that knows it's not true in order to invest and be moved by the story and get what the story is, right? But actors have to do that too. We have to suspend our disbelief because we know it's not real too.
Right, and you're not that person.
But if we go into the process with this little kind of bird on our shoulder saying, oh, just remember, this isn't real, then you're constantly kind of holding yourself back and tripping yourself up. And so you have to suspend that disbelief. You have to believe that what's happening right now is happening right now. This need that I have in the scene is the need that I have, and I have to just do what has to happen in order to get it. Yeah.
Are there methods to that? There must be.
I mean, yeah, it's actor training.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Sure.
It's that process of, it goes back to what we said before, right? About, you know, building the skills to be unself-conscious. Because a lot of that is about self-consciousness, and it's about that, the knowledge of being seen, and the feeling of being seen. And a lot of the time with my sort of entry-level actors, we have this little battle of, they'll be in scenes, but they're constantly like looking out to me to see if they're doing the right thing. And it's that self-conscious, that little bird on their shoulder going, oh, are you doing it right? Are you doing a good job?
Yeah.
And part of my work with them is you have to ignore that.
Yeah.
And you have
You're
to
not
stay,
even there.
you have to
Right.
stay with the person that you're with. And it's practice, you know, it's
Sure.
practice, and it's playing with it in different contexts.
Well, that's where self-confidence comes from. It's funny you mentioned playing with context, because I feel like that's a lot too, is if you can switch the context and still do the thing,
Yeah.
then you know it, and you know you're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
If the context stops mattering, then you can just kind of do the thing.
Yeah.
So you got into voice coaching, and how would you describe what you do?
It's such a great question, because I do really so many different things. Well, if we look at, you know, on paper, what am I? I'm an acting coach. I'm a voice and speech coach. I would say kind of voice body speech coach. I'm an accent dialect coach. I'm an actor. I'm a director, right? I'm an accent coach. So there's all these things, all these terms that you could say that I am. What I think I do across all of those things, and what I'm interested in doing with people, is that I'm interested in helping people become truly in touch with their instrument being their voice and their body and everything that goes along with that, so that what they need to do as either communicators or as performers is easy and is possible. So if I think about that through a training lens, I'm training people how to build an instrument that's responsive to the needs that they have as communicators, whether it's creative communication or professional communication or life communication.
Well, I was going to say, in either case, it'll translate to so many different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it is about, a lot of my work is about, let's just start with your physical body and how in touch you are with your physical body. Are you aware of the sensations of your body? Are you aware of your alignment, your posture? Are you aware of your breath? And then from there, we can start to kind of build this relationship with the instrument and start to grow what the instrument is capable of. And I think for some people, particularly outside of creative fields, that would never occur to a lot of people. That even thinking of yourself as an instrument that can be tuned and that you can learn to play and that you can actually learn to get it to do things that maybe it can't do today, but maybe in a month it will be able to do. And one of the things I think that is one of the coolest things that I find once I've worked with people for a time is when they say things like, oh my gosh, I feel so much more like myself. I can finally communicate with people the way I want to. I'm finally not afraid of how I sound. I'm finally feel like I can say the thing I want to say, or I can, you know, be the person in the room that I've always believed that I was.
So you kind of just answered the question I was going to ask, which was, why is it important to learn these skills? And So now I just want to ask, was it something that you identified that made you feel like you wanted to start doing this kind of work outside of acting yourself?
Yeah.
That kind of, not that it's necessarily a shift, but made you want to focus on helping other people?
Yeah. Yeah. So initially, when I was first, I initially first really thought of myself as an actor trainer. And that was what I was interested in. That's what I always loved doing. That's what I loved.
Training other actors.
Yeah, that's what I loved myself. I loved the process of voice work for actors.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very, in some ways, now that I look back, I was actually pretty rigid in that, that like, I want to work with creatives.
Mm-hmm.
I want to work with actors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like when you're an artist, you want to be with the artists, right?
Yeah.
So I want to work with the actors. I want to help the actors do their actor thing. And for me, the voice element of acting always felt easy. I don't have one of those origin stories that's like, oh, I had a vocal injury and then I really had to strive to get my voice back. And some people do have that, and it's just like such a beautiful journey to see that happen. But I don't have that. I came from a family that was full of singers, and
I didn't know.
So I grew up singing and using my voice, and voice for me was very, it was very homey. Movement, not so much. Movement was a different.
Like you were extremely comfortable with it.
Yeah, and I liked it and I loved it. And when I was going through acting school, my peers would come to me if they weren't getting something. I don't know why.
Yep.
I was doing the same course that they were doing, but it felt easier for me. But then, so that was my kind of trajectory, and I really want to work with actors. I want to train actors. And I had this kind of, as I said, I had this almost kind of rigidity around what I believed to be important for actors in terms of they have to be able to do this. They need to be able to do this. They've got to sound like this. They've got to sound like that. Which now I'm like, oh my God. But what happened was I had a baby.
I was actually going to ask what changed, and maybe it's because I'm a dad myself, and I almost knew you were going to say that. Yeah, that so much changes. Your whole perspective changes when you become a parent. Yeah.
And there were so many layers that impacted me. So the first one was, we might get a little bit birth story here, just sure. FYI. Just a precursor for anyone listening. So I had my first daughter is 7, and during my labor, I was very vocal, and it wasn't a super long labor. I was in what they would call active labor for 7 hours, and then I had a baby. Mm-hmm. So, which is technically, most women would be ecstatic if that was their experience. Yeah, right?
I think we're over 12 both times.
7 hours, amazing. It was awful. It was not at all the birth experience that I had hoped and dreamed for, and that I thought I had prepared for. That I thought I had prepared for. Preparation, right?
Yes.
I thought I had prepared for this. I'd done a hypnobirthing course. I was a voice teacher and a body teacher, so I already knew so much about my body, and I was so in tune that I was going to be just fine.
Yeah.
Oopsie.
Yeah.
Nothing prepares you for birth. So what happened during my labor and delivery is I got very stuck. I got very physically stuck. I felt like I couldn't move. And so I was stuck on my hands and knees for 7 hours in active labor, holding on to my husband's forearms and not letting him move for 7 hours. And he stuck it out, bless him.
And he's a good guy. He's a solid dude.
And that was really that was a true marker of his dedication and commitment.
I'm not surprised. I am not surprised.
Really?
Yeah.
Right? Do you really think he would back down from such a challenge?
No.
So, but all I had, because my body felt so frozen, and I can talk about what that is in a minute, but because I felt so frozen physically, all I had was my voice. And so I I sang, I called out, I roared, I mooed, but it was all very heightened, extreme vocalization, because the amount of excruciating pain that was going through my body was just, I thought I was just going to die. I literally got to a point during my labor that I was like, there's no baby, is there? This is just a horrible joke on women, and there's no baby, and I'm just going to die, and that will be it. But I didn't, and I did have a baby. So that was great, and she was perfect. But then after that...
And you wanted to do it again.
Yeah. Well, I wanted redemption. The second time I was like, no, that didn't play out the way it should have. We're gonna try this again. Yeah. And the second time actually did go much better because of my preparation.
Sure.
I was much more prepared, and I had lost my ego.
Yeah, I almost didn't want to say it, but like we all deal with that, I think. I mean, every human being deals with it, but especially if you're a creative, and we truly mean well by it, because that's a lot of what drives our desire to create in the first place.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can become problematic without us even realizing it. And I think it kind of has to start that way. Because like your work doesn't really start to get good until you start to let go of your ego some.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's no letting go of ego at all, I believe, because the more you say that, I've really kicked my ego in the butt. You know, it's like, okay,
that's your ego.
Right. So you're always dealing with it, but it's learning how to manage it, or learning how to work with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think for me in that case, because I had this kind of assumption that, well, I think two things. I had the assumption that I was so in tune with my body and my voice that I would be able to handle anything that got thrown at me. But also I think there's some rhetoric around labor and delivery, this kind of the language around pain. And I think for me that was problematic, because what I needed someone to say to me is, yes, it is painful, but it's necessary pain, and it's not bad pain. It's your muscles are working in overdrive to get a baby out of your body.
Right.
But it gets kind of framed as, oh, it's just a really strong sensation, because we're trying not to scare people, and we don't want people to be thinking about pain. But for me, then when it was painful, I got scared. And one of the things that he was actually kind of, oh my God, what's his name? Can't remember his name. Really, really important guy in the evolution of essentially midwifery. But he came to understand this cycle, the fear, tension, pain cycle. So fear creates tension, tension creates pain creates more fear. Fear creates tension creates pain.
And then it's just a cycle.
And so it's just this cycle. Yeah. And that's what I got stuck in. And so then the second time around, I was like, not this time. But after I had my first daughter, so even just after giving birth, your entire insides are just completely rearranged, right?
Right.
But also the muscles in your abdominal cavity are exhausted. So I felt like I couldn't breathe properly.
Well, and in many cases, like detached.
Yeah. There's often separation of the muscle fibers. They're so distended because they've been, stretched out across the belly while you've been pregnant. And then they're just kind of like,
yeah.
And so I felt for the first few days like I couldn't breathe out properly because my muscles were so tired and fatigued. But also they had been so stretched out and it was just a really odd feeling.
That's actually something I never thought of, is breathing in relation to after that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, our abdominals are breathing muscles, right? And wow, yeah.
And particularly for the out breath, right? Is so that the diaphragm is involuntary. So the diaphragm descends and then rises as the breath comes in and then goes out. But it's the muscles across the abdominal area that add the extra oomph to the pushing out of the breath, and also some of the rib cage muscles. But so all of that was just on vacation after I was like, oh my God, I can't breathe out. This is weird. I wasn't expecting this. But also my voice was extremely fatigued. And so I felt
Well,
like
I mean, you were mooing and calling and singing.
right,
And
I was mooing and calling
well,
and
no,
singing
but
and
that was
yelling,
the first time.
right?
Yes.
But and this is the first time, right? So this is the turning point, right?
Yeah.
So it took a long time for my voice to repair it. I had never experienced that kind of change in my voice before. So I'd been sick and lost my voice and then got better and, you know, whatever. But this was months. It took months and months and months for me to feel like my voice was my voice again. And it wasn't even just the feeling of my voice. It was the way I showed up. You know, like, as you know, when you become a parent, some weird identity shift happens and you just, it's almost like, who am I now? Who am I now?
Right.
And so
more so for women, I have to concede. I mean, I've certainly felt that as a father, losing some autonomy and things like that. But I'll be the first to say, I mean, it doesn't compare to what a mother goes through in terms of identity and who am I now.
Yeah.
And I watched my wife go through it twice within the last 3 years. So yeah, I mean, that's got to be such a challenge, especially, I guess, like in your individual case, as someone who's so used to knowing their body so well and their voice and all of that, and all of a sudden none of your most valuable attributes are working.
And my most safe.
Right.
My most safe, if I have nothing else, I have my voice, right? If I have nothing else, I have my somatic body voice connection that I know really well and that I can always fall back on. It's gone. And I even remember sitting with the newborn, my daughter, and my husband was in the room. And it was like I didn't even know how to ask for help. It's like and I don't know what that's about, but I didn't know that it was going to be hard for me to ask for help. It was like I thought I would know all the things to do as a mother, but also I knew that I would want people there to ask for help. But then in the actual asking for help, it was like I didn't even really know what I needed to ask for, but I felt like I needed help, but I didn't know what it was. But I thought I was supposed to know because I'm the mother, and aren't you supposed to have all these instincts and just know? And I didn't. And so that layered with the vocal fatigue, and I just was kind of floating in space for months. And when we had Isla in Australia, and then when we came back to the States, I met with my mentor and colleague. I just said to her, Deb, I don't know where my voice is. Like, I don't know what to do. I've done all the things, and I'd been, you know, I basically had to rebuild my voice from the beginning. I had to go right back to basics, and I'm so lucky that I knew how to do that, because I was able to get to a point. And then, you know, it took, you know, meeting with her and talking it through and having her validate, you know, what I had gone through.
Right.
And I think that was a big shift. But then after that, I had just kept having these thoughts of, there are people that feel like this all the time. There are people that feel this kind of disconnect and this, I can't figure out what to say, or I can't figure out how to ask, or my voice isn't strong enough, or my voice doesn't feel like it's really a representation of who I am. And now I know what that feels like. And I don't want people to feel like that.
Wow.
So that kind of really shifted both my interest in working with non-actors, but also the way that I worked with actors. Because instead of just seeing them as, well, you're an artist, you're an actor, you want to be an actor, you have to learn these skills, they were people.
You had a little more empathy.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm a very empathetic person, and I've always sort of thought that I was being very empathetic.
Yep.
But this was a whole other layer or level, and maybe it's also partly because of becoming a mother as well. But just the human aspect, which again, I thought I had, you know, really understood and had on lockdown. You know, hindsight is such a wonderful thing.
We always think we know, right? Yeah. Until we really
know more. And then, you know, something else will happen, and then we'll know more again.
Sure.
But it really shifted my approach to a more compassionate one and a more person-focused approach and identity-focused approach.
Mm-hmm.
And so my teaching shifted as well with my actors and became more about, you know, exploration and guiding them on a journey, as opposed to, here's our end goal, you all need to get here, buck up, kiddos, let's go on this ride. Right?
That's how it was at first?
I think a little bit, yeah.
Yeah?
And I think, I'm going to cough. I think in many ways it's kind of a derivative of classical actor training, is this kind of very, you know, this is the standard that we're aspiring to. You will get there or you will not. And it's your choice.
Yep.
Because the world doesn't need more actors. Right? So if you want to get here, you got to do the things. And that thankfully has shifted a lot. I think, in fact, the whole process of actor training in many scenarios has shifted a lot and become a lot more human-centered, which is fabulous. But I think that was a little bit of leftover for me from that kind of, you know,
Well, that's how you were taught that it was done.
Yeah.
Or that's how you were taught that it was effective.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have no reason to challenge
and that kind of, you know, almost kind of homogenizing of, we have to have a sound, we have to have a voice that can do this, this, and this.
Not only was that how you were taught, but you accomplished it, right? Like you essentially graduated from that world. So
and I loved it.
Right. So at that point, like, why would you think you have to do anything differently?
And why would I ever think that it could possibly be damaging?
Right.
to anyone. Oops. And then, I mean, this is another piece of, I think, why I've ended up teaching the way that I teach and instructing and venturing into the areas that I go into, is that I really did realize, both in talking to other actors and in, you know, working with them and teaching them, that it was not easy for all of them. And some of them actually felt very undone by their voice training and their movement training in a way that was not, was actually not helpful for their development, either as a person or as an artist. Because it's like, we're trying to fit you into a mold, you know, of
what an actor should be.
Of what an actor should be. And we'll tell you the roles you need to be prepared to play. And we'll tell you the skills you need to have, rather than, who do you want to be as an artist?
Right. So.
And how can we help you?
You're automatically typecast.
Yeah.
Into a particular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though in my training that wasn't as much of a focus, in speaking with a lot of other actors, that kind of feeling of, you know, I think it's, I'm trying to think who it was, talking about one of the conservatories in the States, you know, leaving and feeling like their voice belonged to their professors. You know, I graduated and my voice belonged to my professors and it wasn't mine anymore. It was really good for what they wanted me to do, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. And so that kind of idea and that kind of rhetoric that is now being spoken about more, to me, really hits.
That's what can happen in like a my way or the highway type of teaching environment.
Yeah.
Where this is the only way, this is how you're going to do it, is the people who are really engaged are going to, they're going to follow all those instructions, they're going to do what you want them to do, but then at the end of the day, when it's time to go and flap your wings, so to speak, they're not their wings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you kind of, what do you do?
Right.
Because in some ways, you've you've missed out on the time where what you should have been doing is really building and developing your artistry and figuring out who you are as an artist.
Right. And playing, right?
And playing and exploring and kind of going, well, where are the edges? And like, how far can I go this way or that way? And that, my actor training was more like that. I went to a school and they were very much, we want you to be chameleons and we want you to kind of test the edges of what's possible.
I feel like it should open you up, right? Not fit you into a box.
Narrow you down into one little narrow slice. And I feel like when that's the goal, particularly in actor training, that's dicey because you're putting a lot of trust in these people, these professors, to pitch you right down to the pinpoint and hope that gets you gigs.
Yeah.
And that's why I've never really enjoyed the whole type conversations, and actors always talk about their type and my type is this, and it's like sort of it kind of is, but also you're probably capable of more than that. And
I feel like probably one of the bigger issues, I suppose, or the reason why people do that is because in the beginning they probably don't feel like they have any say, or how should they know, right? That they're naive enough to just trust in the people who are the experts, right?
Yeah.
And no one maybe even asks them.
Yep. And that I don't know, that rubs me the wrong way, because I have that neurodivergent strong sense of justice, and I'm like, don't tell me what I can and can't do.
Yeah, right.
Don't tell me I'm this when I want to be that.
I might know that's like,
And I've had, I think artists in general, we have that kind of, we're not trying to be artists, whatever genre we're in. We're not trying to be artists because it's safe.
Yeah, right.
And we can be like good. We can like pat ourselves on the back and get it right. We're doing it because there's some kind of disruption that we want to be part of, or we want to create, or we want to experience.
Drawn to explore, and experience. And I think a lot of creatives really do look at the world a little differently. So it's interesting that you found that in the acting community. I guess I never thought about it. I never looked at it that way.
Yeah.
I appreciate the perspective. So what took you from working with pretty much only actors to helping regular people learn how to communicate better and how to speak better? Because I feel like it's such a valuable, if not the most valuable, it's one of the most valuable skills that someone can have, is to be able to communicate. So as we talked about before, like, you can have all the skills, but if you can't communicate it, then people aren't going to find value in your skills. And you might be someone who really doesn't have that much skill, but knows how to communicate really well. And that can cause all kinds of problems.
Well, and then, maybe that's the person that's getting the promotion because they know how to sell it, or they know how to tell the story, and you just don't have the skills to tell the story and sell the thing. But potentially much more qualified for the role. Someone contacted me. This is before I was in the States. So this was my first dipping my toes into, corporate and public speaking and stuff, was actually before I left Australia. And a woman contacted me from the company, a big superannuation company, and she wanted to work with me. And I ended up working with her and some of the executives for about 6 months. And that was kind of the first time I dipped my toe in and went, oh, this is kind of cool. I like this. This is kind of interesting. But then when I came to the States, I was in a university setting. I had, how did it happen? Oh, my mentor and colleague, who I mentioned earlier, she had done some stuff with various different departments across the university, and they had contacted her and she wasn't able to do them. So she said, I'll contact Aimee. And so I just started doing these trainings with different, departments or the grad program or whatever. And then from there, I just kind of offered things here and there. I did a couple of things, with Chambers of Commerce. And then I've really just been, in the last couple of years, posting more on social media and YouTube and stuff, and just kind of putting stuff out there that's helpful.
Yep.
And of course, I work at the university, so it's not like I have a ton of time. But when people contact me, I'm usually able to kind of squeeze them into my schedule, as private clients.
Mm-hmm.
And then every now and then I'll do, like a training or a talk or something. But part of that piece of it for me, and I would say because I've been so focused on being an actor trainer, and the public speaking piece is kind of my I'm really fascinated by that, and I really want to do more of that. Of course, I have been more in the theatre world and the arts world, and so I consider myself, in some ways, I consider myself at the beginning of that journey.
Okay.
At the beginning of that journey, because technically I still have a full-time job teaching actors, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And it's like a side hustle in a way. But I'm so fascinated by it, and I'm so passionate about that side of things, and working with people who aren't necessarily actors, that's why I started creating more content for them, because I was like, this stuff is helpful. And sometimes people just need that one thing.
It's so
to
important.
help them go, oh, that's what I'm doing wrong. I mean, I did a presentation for an HR organization a couple months ago, and at the end of the presentation, this guy came up to me and he's like, it never even occurred to me that in all these Zoom meetings that I'm sitting in and I'm stressing myself out and I'm feeling so anxious, all I had to do was drop my shoulders. It's like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're so welcome.
Sometimes it's just the simplest things that people are missing because they're focused on something else. It's not that they did anything wrong or that they're stupid or anything. They were focused on something else completely differently, right? And there's so many things that we miss that we don't see because we're focused on something specific.
Yeah.
And there's so many things like that, like letting your shoulders drop. At one point, somebody brought to my attention how often all of us are tight right here. Like we do that, even when we don't realize we're doing it. Yeah, right. And just like, it might have been when I started meditating, but it was like just letting that go and just learning how to be conscious of like in between your eyes. Like can relieve, it can take you down a level, just recognizing that and letting it go. Yep.
And the cool thing about that, I'm actually really glad you brought that up, because I was thinking about this. It's like, oh, I hope we get to talk about this.
You manifested it.
This kind of awareness of what is my face doing, right? So our body is constantly sending our brain signals. And so when we do this, we're going to start to feel concerned pretty quick. Like I already feel quite serious now.
Yeah.
And, straight down the line, right? Just because I shifted something in my face.
Sure.
And often we're so unaware of what's happening.
And that affects so much how people perceive you.
Yes.
For the longest time, and it still happens, but for the longest time, it was like a thing where people would always tell me how serious I was. I was
Same.
So serious.
I had that too. Are you upset? What's wrong?
Right.
Are you okay?
Dude, you're always
I'm
so
fine.
serious.
Why? What's going on? Not noticing.
Yeah, right. That I have this mad dad face on.
Yeah.
And it's just being conscious of that and understanding how much it changes your face and your disposition.
Yeah.
And the way that people perceive you.
And it changes the way you communicate too.
For sure.
And you can kind of test it. And I actually do this in my trainings a lot, is I get people to play with this idea of, I call it smile in the eyes or twinkle in the eye. So we go from, you have to introduce yourself with serious face. So basically what we just did, right?
Yeah.
So we have to introduce ourselves like this to the person next to us. And then we have to shake that out.
Yeah.
And then we have to add a little twinkle in our eyes and then introduce ourselves again. And then they talk about, what's the difference? How did it feel different? What did you see that was different as the receiver of the introduction? And it's really fun, because people immediately see and feel, oh, I felt so serious and I felt so, in some ways, disconnected from the other person when my brow was furrowed and when I had my serious face on. And then when my eyes were brighter, I felt like I wanted to talk to them. I felt like I really wanted them to know who I was.
Interesting.
And then the listener is like, yeah, I felt like you really wanted to talk to me. And then the first time I felt like I was kind of in your way and you didn't really like me. Yeah. And it's just amazing how that's just a shift of muscular action in your face.
Yeah.
And that's just your face. So then then that opens up the whole, what about the rest of the body? And so what's the rest of your body telling your nervous system and telling what I refer to as your inner climate? What's going on in your inner climate is really affected by what's happening in your physical body. So if you're sitting and you're kind of collapsed and you've got this kind of like shoulders in, chin out, that's going to affect the way you feel. It's affecting how I sound, right? So you can hear there's a difference in the vocal quality, but there's also a difference in how you feel. If you're someone who tends to kind of chest puff and shoulders back, that's going to affect how you feel too, and that's also going to affect how you're perceived. And so there's these kind of tensions that show up in the body that tell the body how to behave and that tell the inner climate what's going on.
Right.
And so once we can kind of become aware of that and start to soften it all and feel a little bit more neutrality and ease and like release the furrow on a body level, then we actually can feel a little bit more restful when we're in meetings. And we might realize that, oh, maybe I'm actually not worried about stuff. Maybe just my face and my body were really tense and that was giving my body the instruction of being worried.
So is that a good way to reset? Like if you've got 60 seconds before you have to go in front of a group of people, or 60 seconds and I'm going to have to go and give this presentation to my boss, or they just called my name for the interview and I'm about to walk in and this could make or break the rest of my life.
Check your face, check your shoulders, breathe, take a breath. Yeah. Right? Because your breath is, it's ye oldie famous nervous system reset is the breath, right? And it's almost become this kind of, it's someone else talking about breath. But it really is. And then the other side of that is how you breathe matters. So if you're just taking a deep breath, but for you a deep breath is, that's not a deep breath. You've actually filled barely any of your lungs. And you've taken what is actually more like the breath of anxiety. I could almost even recognize it in the way you did. Like, oh, that didn't calm me down. Exactly. And so, but that sometimes when we're in that stress state is what we do because the body is in that stress state. So we have to kind of give it a different instruction and we want to instruct the breath to go low. And so I like to use the sense of smell. Because if you imagine smelling something that's really good, do it with me. You just take the time to breathe in the smell of something you really love. You might notice that the breath drops lower, that everything starts to slow down. And because it's a personal association, it's usually pretty easy to access. See, now you don't want to stop, do you?
Wow. Yeah. No, that actually really worked. I've never thought of doing the smell thing. Yeah. Because everyone at least can think of a pleasant smell. They might not know their favorite smell, but they can think of something that they like
just
the way that
good.
smells. Right.
And it can be anything. It can really be anything. It
takes you out of the moment.
Yeah. It's like, where's your favorite place in nature? Oh, I love going to the beach. Oh, I can put myself there. And there I am. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And the cool thing about that breath and the way this is different from, like box breathing or alternate nostril breathing or all those other breath practices that kind of require you to sit and breathe.
I hate box breathing, actually. I hate the box breathing.
Yeah, I'm kind of a little...
It's the first time I've said that out loud, but
I'm not a huge fan. I'm not a fan of it either, Brian. But I do share it with people because for some people it's really helpful. Sure. Some people, I don't like the holding breath part. Yeah. That feels really unnatural to me. And to me, because I am someone who has struggled with anxiety, that's not a feeling I want to put in my body. I don't want to
yeah.
put that like in my
Yeah.
body.
What I do like about it though is I like the hold after the exhale.
Yes.
That feels awesome to people who have never done that
Yes.
before. Like the hold after the exhale, where it's a pause. It's like you're not holding your breath, but you're also not breathing in new breath. But that hold feels so good.
Yes. And the reason it feels good, well, the reason I think it feels good, this is my theory, and I think of that as like triangle breathing. I breathe in, I breathe out, then I pause. I breathe in, I breathe out, then I pause. And I'm kind of the same. I like the out breath because when you breathe in, your body is receiving oxygen. When you breathe out, it's getting rid of, what it doesn't need. It doesn't need to breathe in right away.
Right.
So that little moment of hiatus, it's just the body taking the time it needs to take to not rush the breath, which is also a sign of safety.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm in danger, I'm... Right? I'm trying to almost flood my body with oxygen.
Yes.
When I'm safe, I can let it just hang.
Trust the fact that there's more oxygen.
I'm gonna breathe when I need to breathe again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this kind of using smell or using an image, sometimes for some people even just a color, like I'm gonna breathe in the color pink or whatever.
I see that working too.
You can do that in the middle of a meeting.
Sure.
You can do that in the middle of a keynote. I've done it several times while we've been talking, right? Because I know that that's a way, if I feel like I'm kind of getting ahead of myself and I do that because I get excited and then I go, whoa, Aimee, just take a second. And so I just take one of those breaths and it's like, oh, okay. And I'm back.
So that made me think of something that I do that has taken, and I still do it. I'm working on it. I'm wondering if you have a trick for it, and I almost just started to do it and I stopped myself, where I start talking before I've completely thought about what I'm going to say. And that's one thing doing this podcast has taught me actually is when I watch myself do that, I'm like, oh my God, like stop doing that. Think first and then speak. Are there any like frameworks or anything that you guys...
Take the breath.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
When I'm training actors, when we talk about, in actor training, we talk about thoughts, right? So you're learning lines. It's someone else's words.
Right.
So it can sometimes feel like you just kind of have to get the words out. But one of the things that actors actually have to do is unlock the thoughts underneath the words. And thoughts go with breath. And often thoughts are in alignment with punctuation in written text, right? And so when there's punctuation, a lot of the time, that's where you want to breathe because that's where the thought is to get to the next thing that you're supposed to be saying. So if we kind of slow that down and put it in context of being a human being talking, it's the same essential idea. Take the breath, let the thought finish forming, and then speak. And maybe it's 2 breaths.
Right. Or just allowing yourself to pause for a
giving
second.
yourself a second. And that's one of the other things. It's also really useful in so when communication is getting emotional. Because that's a really big time where we just want to say the first thing that comes into our mind, and it's really fully formed, and then by the time we finish speaking, we really wish we hadn't said what we had just said.
Yeah.
So it's a
I might
tool.
be guilty of that sometimes.
I mean, I've never experienced anything like that myself. But yeah, it's the same idea of, take a breath before you respond. When you feel that you're, in an emotional situation, when you feel like your body, when you're kind of getting activated, take a breath before you say the thing. Because sometimes it just takes the time of taking the breath for you to go, I'm going to make a different choice.
Well, I guess if we shift it into like, just by happenstance, those like tense conversations or even arguments, but if you can take that pause, I feel like that also you're taking back some power in that discussion as well, or at least like you're maintaining yours anyway.
Yeah.
Because what I learned a long time ago that helps me when I can think about it. But sometimes we all get pissed off, sometimes royally pissed off, and we can't quite catch ourselves.
No one's perfect.
Right, but when you get pissed off, like, you just lost. Like, if you lose your temper and you lose that ability to pause, you just lost whatever discussion, argument, or debate that you're in.
Well, and I think the other problem with it is this idea of when you let that, it's not even it's your nervous system, right? So when you feel that, and of course, as parents, you feel it with children too, right? You're so patient and loving, and then it's just, and then it's not, that's the 47th time.
Yeah, right.
I can't do it anymore, right? But it's that lizard brain kicks in,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
And once you're there, there's no going back.
Yeah.
There's no quick fix once you get into that kind of like red light zone.
Yeah.
And so those breaths that you're taking are helping you stay away from that red light zone. They're helping you stay. You might still feel a little kind of, I'm trying to think of the book. I can't think of any of the names of things today. So that would probably be really helpful if I could. But a book I read once, and this psychologist was talking about this exact kind of scenario where you've got green light, yellow or orange light, and then red light. And we don't want to get to red light when we're in conversations with our partners or our loved ones or our colleagues, right? So can we notice when that orange or that yellow light is kind of coming on, and can we then use the tools that we have to either stay there or start to move it down into that green zone?
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah, I really liked that.
Yeah.
And then of course I, read other, parenting books. I think it's so Raising Good Humans, I think, is one that I've read, and she actually talks about that process as a parent of, when you're with your kids and it gets to the point where you're so frustrated, you don't know what to do, and you flip into that lizard brain, there's no going back from that. Now you just have to leave and you have to wait for it to calm down. You cannot try and reason or fix anything once you get there.
Right.
And so part of what she talks about in that book is, mindfulness and breath work and knowing when you need to just stop and breathe.
Yeah.
And I don't think that just applies to being a parent.
Yeah, I guess the struggle of being a parent, though, that what my brain goes to automatically is the real challenge there is you don't get to just walk away.
Yeah.
There might be those fortunate moments when your partner is there and you can say, I need a minute.
Yeah.
But you don't always get the luxury of walking away.
Yeah.
And so I guess just remembering that breath, because if they see that immediate shift in you as well, then that might cause them to pause for a moment.
Yeah.
Too, maybe, depending on ages and those kinds of things. But that's so important to try to remember in real time.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Because I mean, again, there's no perfect parent either, so you're always going to run into those moments where, you just lose it. But that's that recognizing that yellow light, and I feel like that's something you can use in discussion with someone. If you've talked about it beforehand, you could even say, "Hey, I'm feeling a little yellow light here. Like I'm getting into some yellow.
Yeah.
Like we should just maybe
right.
let's just back off for a while."
And there's a bunch of theories like there's a bunch of people have come up with different frameworks like that, but I think that it's kind of like a universal. Oh, we know what the amber light means. Right.
Yeah.
It's before the.
Well, and even kids do. So it's why you could even use it with your kids and be like, you know what, Daddy's feeling a little bit like he's getting to a yellow light.
This is genius. We should trademark this.
It's good.
I mean, even though it was sort of someone else's idea, but for parenting.
But isn't everything someone else's idea?
Everything is someone else's idea.
There's nothing new under the sun.
No,
right?
Definitely not.
So I'm curious. I figured we might end up there by now, but we keep finding all these different directions are going. I'm loving it. And as long as I've known you and know you're from Australia, I know nothing about that story. So
I'm here?
Yeah. So how did you end up? Like, give me the story of Aimee moving from Australia to the United States.
Well, I'm going to start with what we almost started talking about before with the psychic.
Yes.
And I can't even remember how old I was. I must have been in my early 20s, maybe mid 20s. And I was an actor in Australia, living in Melbourne, and, you know, at that age, I was really just auditioning a lot, and every now and then you get a gig, and you just, it's really, it's soul destroying. It's really hard. And so I had a friend whose mother had this psychic that she would go to now and then. I think she had, you know, her annual visit to the psychic. You know. I'm like, okay, I'll go to this one. And apparently she was amazing. And she's this woman who, you know, the police would consult with on cases and so. So she was very kind of...
She was a real deal.
Prolific. She was the real deal. And so I went to this woman's house. She's this tiny little, I think she was English woman. And I walked in, she would be toddled up to her little study area. Did not seem at all like a psychic. Like, I'm thinking it's going to be all
no crystal balls
moody, and there's going to be like scarves and curtains, and it was just like a regular house. I was like, oh, this is kind of disappointing. And she used just a regular playing deck.
Ah, okay.
Just a regular deck of cards. But she was amazing, and she let me record the session, and I have since lost the recording, but I did find the notes a while back, and that was pretty trippy. But she told me a bunch of different things. But one of the things that she told me was that I was going to live in the States, and that I was going to work in a bunch of different areas, and people were going to really value me in all these different areas. I was like, lady, what are you even talking about? I have no desire to go to the States. I'm not, you know, at that time I hadn't even considered coming to the US, and I was more thinking, you know, oh, maybe I'll just go to London. And so then it ended up that I did come to the States, and I did end up staying, and so on and so forth. But the way that I got here was that I initially just was in 2007. I came to do a 4-week training. So I'd been working as an actor for a bit, and I kind of was starting to notice what my shortcomings were. And so what I really wanted to do was find a training that was going to help me with my voice and body connection, which is, of course, now what I do.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of the beginning of the end, right? So I found this technique called LESAC, kinesthetic training, and I'd never heard of it before. I bought the book. I was kind of fascinated by it. It seemed really compatible with the way I had just kind of been evolving my own artistry and my own practice.
You said kinesthetic?
Kinesthetic.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a made-up word.
Okay.
But it does have meaning. And so I came to the States to do that, and absolutely fell in love with the work, and it just was really life-changing.
How long after that reading was that?
That's a really good question. It's got to have been within a year.
Oh wow, that fast.
Yeah,
wow.
It's got to have been within a year. And so I did that first training, and the women who were running the training were just fabulous. And actually the founder of the training, Arthur Lesac, actually was there for 1 week of the training. So that was really cool too, because he was at the time, I think 90 something, 97 maybe he would have been, 96, 97. And he was just fabulous and wonderful, and just such a generous, wise, beautiful human to meet and to work with. Just really made you feel like you were the only person in the world. Just really amazing. But so I fell in love with the work because it felt like what I had already been trying to do. And it was like, they've already done it. It already exists. I don't have to make it myself.
Well, yeah.
I can just keep training in this, and this is going to give me what I want. And it did. And so then I went back the following year to do the training again. And after that, they were kind of like, let's get you in the certification track. And I said, great. The only way for me to do that is to be in the States. And so for a couple of years, so between 2008 and 2010, it was kind of a series of emails back and forth between me and my mentor, Deb, just kind of going, how are we going to do this? How do we get me there? How long do I need to be there for? What if I move to Canada and then I can come down and visit you in New Hampshire? And like, how can we? So just so many different ideas. And then this position came up at the University of New Hampshire where she was working. And she said, let's do this. You can, if you can apply for this position. And so I applied for the position and I got the position, and it was just a year. And that was the goal, is I would go and I would teach in this position for a year and be mentored by her and then get my certification. And then it's now 15 years later.
Wow. So you've been at UNH for 15 years?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't even believe it sometimes.
Yeah.
Like what? And so along the way, I, worked with the Chamber of Commerce and was part of the Kachiko Arts Festival.
Yep.
And
I'm pretty sure we had met before that. But
yeah,
that's
I
when
feel
I
like
think,
we had.
Yeah, but that's maybe the first real interaction we had, was being on that committee.
Yeah.
Together, and that whole experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting when you're good at something, or you seem competent and people want to recruit you for other things, you can really start to stretch yourself.
But then this is what this psychic had said to me. She's like, she's because she said, you don't actually even know what these things are yet. You don't know that you have these skills yet. I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't want to do it. I want to be an actor, lady. I'm an actor. I'm not going to do any of that kind of stuff. And then, of course, here I was doing these things, writing my own theatre. My friend Jamie and I, who you also know, started a theatre company together. We do all these things, and it had never occurred to me that would be the trajectory of my life. That it just never.
The whole concept of you don't know what you don't know has almost defined the last 7 years of my life. And I just, the older I get, it's just so much more apparent, and it just, cause it's such an obvious saying, but when you really acknowledge it and acknowledge what it means and how it can apply to everything, you just don't know what you don't know. And sometimes you don't even know what you think you know. We're just kind of moving forward and waking up every day, and sometimes just forgetting that things can be serendipitous, and as long as, well, I don't mean to get dark, but like, as long as we wake up the next day, we're just leaving things wide open for the things that we don't know are coming. And sometimes just making a decision, and you didn't know what you didn't know, but you made the decision to come here, and you got 2 beautiful kids and a beautiful family and a career that you find fulfilling. I
mean, I think the other side of it too, and this is, we don't want to get dark, but
well, creatives don't know anything about darkness.
Yeah, no, we never experienced things like that.
Right.
But at the time that I was sort of preparing to leave Australia, I was in a really dark place. I was really jaded about, the acting industry. I was getting frustrated. I was really lonely. I was living in an apartment with a really dear friend, and then she ended up having to go and live somewhere else. And then I just had this kind of slew of apartment roommates that were there or they weren't there, and I never really got to know them. So I was super lonely. I was getting very depressed. I wasn't booking acting gigs. I was getting auditions, but I was just everything seemed so hopeless. And then there was this, we'd like to offer you the position. I'm like, what the hell am I going to stay here for?
Right.
When I can go and do that, And then at the end of that first year, when they offered me my contract again, I was like, what am I going back to? That was awful. I don't want to be back there doing that. And having that experience where I just felt like I was, not right for anything, because as an actor, you're going into auditions and you're all doing the same thing. All actors, we're all going to the audition to see if we're the right fit. And it's not personal. It's just, the product is this. Do you fit into the vision for the product? Oh, no, not this time. And after a while, that gets really, really hard to just never be the right fit. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to stay here. I've met this great guy.
You found some place you fit.
I found some places I fit. People like my work. I'm a stay. And now it's 15 years later. So I think if I I think now, at the age that I am, and at the, I don't know, like if I think of myself as an actor, I think if I was in Australia, in Melbourne now, with the, and I think this is what happens when you have kids too, is like you just stop giving a fuck, right? You just, like you really, or you hit 40 and you're like, nah, I don't really care what anyone thinks anymore. I do not give a shit. And so I think now that I have that kind of, you know, I don't owe anyone anything. I'm not trying to sell anything to anyone. This is who I am as an artist. This is who I am as an actor. I feel like I probably would end up getting more work now than I did when I was younger.
It's so
because
fun.
I've got that kind of, I trust my artistry. I know that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm not this kind of, you know, beginning actor trying to be what everyone is looking for.
Right.
As opposed to just like owning who I am and being like, yeah, cool. If it fits, great. If it doesn't, oh well.
Well, that's what you start to realize, at least that's what's really kind of hit home for me in my 40s. And I may have even said this phrase before getting closer to the age that I'm now, but anything is acceptable if you just own it. Like that's when that awkwardness happens or the weirdness happens and you project your own awkwardness or weirdness onto other people and then blame them for not liking you, right? When if you just fucking owned who you are and weren't so worried about what other people think.
Yeah.
Like we create our own problems in that particular sense so much.
Yeah.
And I think it's just part of maturing and it's part of learning. I think it's totally natural. Some of us stay there longer than others.
Yeah.
But it's like really once you start to just understand that it doesn't fucking matter what anybody else thinks. Yeah, the world kind of opens up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I've started infusing that more in my role as an instructor and a facilitator across the board too, is this kind of, you know, even in my young actors, just starting that thread of awareness of some things you're going to be right for and some things you're not going to be right for. It doesn't change who you are.
Right.
You have to get really confident and comfortable in your artistry and in who you are and in what you want, so that you can kind of weather those storms of, you know, not getting cast in the shows and not getting this and not getting that, because being an actor is a world of no's, and basically your job is auditioning and being told no, you know, and then every now and then you'll get a gig. And that's, you know, I feel like that's one of the kind of universal artist things, right? Is like, maybe you'll get paid for something.
Yes. Yeah.
But you are a professional, but that's not what you're getting paid to do. But you are a professional, aren't you? Yeah. And it can really mess with you.
Sure.
So you have to have that sense of this is my artistry. This is the way I work. This is what I have to offer. This is what I bring to the table. And it's here ready for the taking when it makes sense, when it's the right fit.
Well, it's only authentic if you're owning it.
Yeah.
And it's only valuable if it's authentic. Right? Whether you're acting or painting or whatever. If you're trying to do something that is supposed to fit into what your perception of what somebody else is going to want is, that's
already too confusing.
Right. Like you can't even, that's not a target you can even hit.
It's too hard.
Right. So you just have to focus on what you do and really own what you do and be okay with your uniqueness in whatever sense that is. Yeah. No one that's ever been cool was trying to be like somebody else.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that also comes up with, it comes up a lot when I work with grad students with speaking, because they're also kind of in that phase of, you know, I'm a researcher, or I'm this, or I'm that, and this is my thing, I think.
Yeah.
And having a kind of an expectation or a perception of how they need to be perceived or how they might be expected to be perceived. And so part of what I like to invite into the space is, what's your uniqueness? What's your unique way of communicating with people? Are you funny? Then bring humor into your presentation.
Sure.
Are you, a serious person? Then use that and bring some gravitas into your presentation. Own the traits that you have as a human that got you where you are, that got you into the research that you're doing, that got you to the point where you know all this stuff that other people don't know, and bring that into the way that you communicate what you're communicating.
Well, it's so interesting. Bring it back to that, like, that's really where people get tripped up, is because this. It's just a matter of, if you focus on your desire to make that person standing in front of you understand it, rather than recite what you wrote when you thought you knew what you needed to say. That just creates so much confusion in your head. If you can just focus on the people outside of you and the topic and getting them to understand it, versus what you wrote or what
and how you're going to be perceived,
right,
and the persona that you want to have.
Right.
And there's
so it's like bringing it back to ego. It's like that's what freezes us, right? Is our ego, like not from a malicious or negative place, but it's our ego trying to protect us.
Yeah.
When if we can just let that go, take a breath, realize that we're just talking to people.
Because it's like the focus on the people is in the wrong direction when it's ego. They're going to judge me.
Right. Exactly.
They're going to tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. They're going to have opinions about this, as opposed to the focus you want to have on them is, I want to share this with you. I want to help you understand this. I want to inspire you to take action on something. I want to, so it's almost like it's kind of the attention on the other people is going in the wrong direction. We want it to be the giving direction, as opposed to how they're going to react to me, which you can't know and you can't control anyway. So it's a non-controllable factor.
Right.
So there's no point thinking about it.
Exactly.
Even though we do think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But having that understanding of, it's actually out of my control how they react and respond to what I say. I have to be able to just let that go.
But also our perception of what other people think of us are almost always wrong.
Oh, almost always, yeah.
Almost always wrong. If you could give one rule for confident speaking to every single person on earth, what would that be?
Oh man, just one?
It's a rule. Yeah, just one. It's a rule, not advice. This is a rule. You have to do this.
I think it has to be about the purpose and putting your attention on them. That the reason you're there speaking is because you have something to teach or to share. So attention on them. Right. Attention on the other.
Attention on the other. Yeah, I like that. That's a good way of framing that. So how does this understanding that you teach your students and other people you work with in the acting sense, how can you use this with your kids?
Well, great question. I use it.
And how do you use it with your husband?
I use it all the time with all of them. No. So, I think, okay, so one of the what do you call it? Misunderstandings, or the incorrect perceptions, I guess, of what acting is that it's pretending, right? What you're actually trying to train actors to do is be truthful.
Well, and not pretend.
And not pretend, and to be authentic, and to be real, and to actually listen to people, and to actually respond, and to actually pay attention to what other people are doing. And this again comes back to this is the most important thing for actors, is their attention has to be on the other person.
Right.
That's where the information comes from.
Yeah.
Everything I do is in response to what you do.
Well, remembering your lines does you no good if the person in front of you doesn't know theirs.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're focusing on them versus your lines, you're going to be where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, and vice versa,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
both actors have that,
Yeah.
and I think that's the same for communication across the board.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in general, we tend to listen to respond rather than listen to hear and listen to receive
And understand.
right? And so in Michael Chekhov training, this is referred to as giving and receiving, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm the speaker and giving,
Mm-hmm.
and you're the listener, you're receiving,
Mm-hmm.
but both roles are active.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not waiting to give when I'm receiving.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in the state of receiving. And then when it's my turn to speak, then I'm giving.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
so in terms of my family, with my children, just general communication with my children, and this is not always easy because, of course, as an adult, you have a job and you have a house to manage and you have schedules and you have all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
But as much as I can, I really try to make sure that I'm with them when I'm with them,
Mm-hmm.
and when they're talking to me,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm really hearing them, and that I don't do those things where I'm constantly correcting them.
Mm-hmm.
And that can sometimes, for me, be difficult because I feel like my husband will tell you this too. So yeah, you got to work on your correcting.
What's an example of something you're kind of pull to correct them on a lot?
So, well, we often correct them on how they speak to us, right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
in some ways is kind of necessary.
Sure. Well, yeah, but
But
there's a line
in
there.
other ways, it's like, well, she's 4.
Mhm.
The fact that she can even communicate this to me at all is pretty amazing.
Yes.
In the eloquent way that she did, but she didn't say please.
Yeah.
So how many times am I going to tell her to say please? And then I'm making it about her saying please, and I'm not acknowledging the fact that she is verbose enough to be able to ask this complex question of me,
Yeah.
or to articulate that she really, really needs something urgently right now.
Yeah.
So it's like I feel like there's a time and a place for those kind of corrections or teachings or, that kind of stuff. And I'm still learning that too, right? And I catch
nobody gets it
myself,
right. Nobody
and
gets
we
it
all
right.
have, as parents, we all have our opinions about how we should do this, or how we should treat our kids in this context, or how we should teach them how to do this, that, or the other. And, I have my theories on that. My husband has his theories on that.
Mhm.
We got to kind of allow that to just be how it is. And it's not always easy. And I'm not always perfect at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I have an awareness of it. And I'm thankful that I have an awareness of it, because I can be trying to not fix it, but take that breath,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. Right.
And feel that feeling of, I really want to, just gonna. And in that breath, usually what comes to mind is, do I actually need to say this? Do I actually need, does this correction or this offering or suggestion, whether it's to my kids or my husband or whoever, does it need to happen right now?
Right.
Is the world going to end if I don't remind my daughter to say please?
Right.
Is the world going to end if I don't say to my husband, the OT said we have to say this instead?
Mm-hmm.
It's not.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be okay. In terms of, I think
That's a big step, actually. That's a big step, and I think
it's tough.
that's yeah. I'm certainly not saying it's easy. I've been trying to be mindful of the very same thing the last year or so. I think I've been more careful about it, just in general, because I think I realized that sometimes that people always thinking I'm so serious,
Mm-hmm.
right, would sometimes take something that I meant lightheartedly and really thought that I was being a dick.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I guess if I had heard myself say that, no, actually what happened is, and this was actually a little bit more recent, but it really drove it home, is somebody that I had been working on with podcast stuff, and he had said something to me, like he was sitting over there and I was actually sitting here, and he had said something to me And I didn't even know he was recording. He was just recording it, and then I happened to find the recording of when we had that little couple minute talk. It wasn't even a couple minute talk. It was like I basically said one statement, but there was that 30-second recording that I found on the camera, and I watched it. I was like, holy shit! Like, I was such an asshole.
I sounded like such a dick.
And no, but really, and I was
Yeah.
just like, wow, like taking that pause and just really being mindful of what we're actually saying and how it might be received.
Yeah.
And no one's ever going to be perfect at that either, but just being aware of it, like having that awareness is so important.
And I feel like that's really, in some ways, that's all you can do, because you can't see inside someone else's inner climate.
And you're
right?
never going to get it right.
And you might have inklings, but you also might get it really wrong. And I feel like I'm not perfect. I get it wrong, you know. And there's even situations where, you know, you're in the kitchen with your partner and you say something in such a way because you're in the process of like trying to figure out the coffee maker that's pissing you off, and then you say something in response to them that you think you're just replying, and they're like, what's with the attitude? You're like,
Did my wife give you that one?
I'm fixing the coffee.
I do that all the time.
But you know what I mean?
I piss her off all the time.
And it's like that. My tone of voice was directed at the coffee maker, and it said the words to you, and then it sounded like it was to you, but it was actually to the coffee maker.
Yes.
Yeah. Right? And so there's those things that happen too. And it's like, shit happens, you know? I feel like we've said this a few times today, you know? Like it does. And you can't be perfect all the time. And I think the other side of this is within those relationships and within those communicative situations, we all, in some ways, have to have a little bit of forgiveness and empathy for each other, and forgiveness of, that's not how I meant that, I'm sorry. And then being willing to hear the sorry and go, okay, I can understand that would be a thing that happened. And
I think that's a really, really important piece, is you're never going to get it perfect every time, but having the mindfulness and the control of your ego, I guess, to not be too proud to go back and be like, hey, like, I'm sorry, that came off wrong. I actually, when I found that, I texted the guy. I was like, dude, I just realized how much of a dick I sounded like when I said this.
Yeah.
And he was actually like, yeah, you do that sometimes. Like, and I'm just like, wow. He's like, and I think he was worried that I was going to take offense to that. And I'm like, actually, I really appreciate the honest feedback. I am recognizing that I do that sometimes. Yeah. And that's not how I want to be perceived by anybody. Sure, I want people to take me seriously, but I don't want anyone to think I'm an asshole.
Yeah. And I get the same thing. There's been several occasions where people have brought to my attention that I can seem insensitive. And I hear that. I'm like, yeah, that I can see how that would have definitely felt like that. And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, like my sister has brought it up with me before, you know. I think she said something about, you know, something about me always, it's like you always have the answer. You always know the solution to everything. And it's just like, oh, you just do this. I'm like, oh, okay. I kind of do that. But for me, I'm doing it because I get this kind of hyper, I have to fix this for you.
Well,
but it's not necessarily received in that way. It can come across as kind of aggressive.
That's something that I actually really try to work on with my older daughter. Because, I mean, she's going to be 23 this year, which is insane. It's insane. But as she was getting older, like sometimes, like in her mid-teens to later teens to early 20s, she would sometimes, because I wouldn't see her every single day, I'd see her like on the weekend when she was coming home to do laundry or whatever, and she would just be like, just dumping everything, like all of this information about her roommate and her roommate's boyfriend and their whatever's going on there, and like and all kinds of just this girl and that girl and this person and this, and I'm just like, at a certain point, because I would actually get snappy, because I'm just like, I don't need all this information.
Too much.
Yeah, right, and I don't know these people, so it just doesn't. And sometimes she'd be complaining.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, I had to like reframe it for myself. Like, hold on, are you telling me all this because you want me to respond to it?
Yeah.
Or are you telling me all this because you're just telling me what's going on?
Need to
You just want me to
unload.
listen. Right.
Yeah.
And because I would always want to respond. She's my little girl. So I was always trying to fix stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, and then she would do this and then I'd start lecturing her. I'm just like, dude, stop. Like, she's not looking for help here or for you to fix it.
Yeah.
She's just.
She needs to just come home to the safe space.
Right.
Where she can word vomit everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I feel like that is something that happens with our loved ones for sure, is we want to fix it. We want to help. We want to.
Well, it doesn't always require a response. Like sometimes.
Yeah. And sometimes that's, it's that old thing, of, sometimes we're just trying to get it out. Sometimes we want help.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I just want you to sit there and just be a body that I'm speaking to so I can just bleh.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have to be, for myself, I have to kind of try and gauge that with people, because I tend to be a fixer. I tend to be oh, well, look, there's this great book. Let me get, oh, well, here's a thing that you can, and so I've had to, even in messages with people, even if it's not verbal communication, just, test those waters of, finding ways to ask or to see, like, is this helpful if I offer this? No worries if it's not. This is just kind of where my head went. But framing it in such a way that it's not, well, I think you should do this, and here's this link to this article, and let me know what you think. Rather than that, coming at it more from a, I can hear what you're saying, and it's making me think about this. Does this seem helpful? And if not, no worries. Like, I'm not, just trying to be a little bit more gentle with how I make those offers, if I make them at all.
Sure.
Because I think it can, when you're a helper, it can come across as being a know-all. It can come across as being aggressive. It can come across as being kind of, in some ways, even combative. You did it wrong. I have the answer. You should be doing it more like me.
Yeah. It can be insulting, or it can be undermining somebody who put in a lot of work.
Exactly. You don't always know.
Right.
You don't always know what that individual's been going through.
Right.
Yeah. It's brutal to get the feedback, but it's also, I'm kind of like you. I want the feedback.
Yeah.
I want to know.
I won't always be as able to receive it. But,
exactly.
But I still want it.
I still want to know.
Yeah.
And depending on the mood that I'm in, I might not be in a great place to receive it, but I will usually go away and compute it and think about it. And in many cases, we'll go, yeah, actually, you probably were right.
Right.
Oops.
Right. And that's super important too. It's like, whereas we'll never be free of our ego, it's important to at least be able to manage it enough to know when to go back and say, hey, thank you, or hey, I'm sorry. One of the best things that my oldest daughter ever told me is that, almost like welling up thinking about it actually, is just because that she appreciated that anytime like we did have like an issue or something, or if I was an asshole, like that I would think about that and I would apologize for it or bring it up later. And that's something my mom did that I always appreciated, because it made a huge difference for me. So, and I just feel like that's an important part of being human. Like we all are gonna fuck up, and I didn't want her to think, even as her father, that I'm never gonna fuck up. Just when I do fuck up, like I'm not gonna be too proud to acknowledge that I fucked up. And look, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have yelled, or I shouldn't have done this, or whatever.
And I think that's another, like, just bringing it back to your question before about, bringing it into, with my children, and that's definitely one of the places again where that moment of reflection came too late. Now I gotta go back. Now I gotta take a step back, and I gotta apologize. And I want to apologize because I don't want my little kids growing up thinking they're always wrong.
But I also
and I'm always right because I'm a grown up.
To know that they can do that too.
Yes.
Right. Just to have the example that, oh, well, whenever my dad fucked up, he would actually go and apologize for it. So I just fucked up, so maybe I'll
Yeah.
go and apologize for it. And maybe you won't be as hard on yourself for screwing up in the first place. Because everyone does.
Yeah.
Right, as we keep saying.
Yeah.
So to switch to something a little less heavy.
Yeah.
I've had some fun watching you work on accents.
Yeah.
On Instagram. So that actually also makes me want to ask. So how did you find it acclimating to the U.S. when you first moved here?
There's definitely was, ELD culture shock kind of thing where you come to a country that speaks the same language,
but very differently.
And it looks, for the most part, pretty similar. Like architecture is a little different, and you drive on the wrong side of the road, but just like little kind of things like that. And the fact that stores look like you're just walking into somebody's house. Just weird things like that, or restaurants look like just a door, and this can't be a real, There's
I guess especially in this area.
Things
too,
like in New England
like
a lot, because obviously it's really cold in New England. You don't want window, like wall-to-wall windows across the storefront. But anyway, so those kind of things were in some ways kind of more rattling than I thought they would be, because it's almost like you're in an alternate reality.
Sure.
Because you're like, people speak the same language as me, but they don't seem to understand me as well because they sound different. Everybody says what to me an awful lot. And I'm an actor and I'm trained to speak well. So, I know it couldn't possibly be me.
Yes.
But there is a bit of a disconnect if we've been in a kind of silo, an auditory silo of, a linguistic auditory silo, right? Where we only hear one sound all the time, and then someone comes in with a different sound. It is a kind of bit of a what now? And that's true both of, accent, it's true of language, but it's also true in the theatre. So if you're someone who doesn't really ever go and see Shakespeare, and you go and see Shakespeare, it's going to take you 10 minutes to acclimate to the language. And for the first 10 minutes, it's going to feel like you have no idea what anyone's saying, because the way that people are speaking in Shakespeare is very different to the way we speak now, today. In terms of, my accent, I went through a phase of just being really bitter about people not understanding me and just be, I'm gonna stay totally Australian all the time, mate. I had people, actually one time I was in a bar and a guy offered to pay me to say something Australian and I didn't respond well to that. And I said, let me give you something for free, mate. Fuck off. And he was like, oh, what do you mean? What? I just thought it would be fun. I'm like, I'm not a sideshow, I'm a person, right? And I just sound different. It was very insulting. And, Australians are pretty, in some ways, I think we're pretty proud. And also I think we can be a bit defensive, particularly with Americans, because, there's this kind of, growing up Australian, all the movies are American, all the shows are American. There's this kind of idealized view of the United States. And then as you get older, you almost start to resent it.
Really, yeah.
You almost start to resent like this kind of Americanness of everything. And so that was like a little...
I think that can happen growing up here too, actually.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
I mean, I think it happens in Australia, about Australia, for Australians too.
Yeah.
You develop this kind of like, you get to a certain age and you go, hang on, what?
Yeah.
Why do we have this? In Australia, we have this thing called tall poppy syndrome. You've got to cut down the tall poppies. Don't let them grow too high.
Yeah.
Don't let those people think they're too good at stuff, which is really toxic.
Well, and it's kind of like that in the UK a little bit too, right? It's like when you see somebody else doing good or trying to do good, then you want to cut them down first.
Yeah, it's weird.
Whereas in the United States, people generally really like to see people trying. They don't necessarily like to see people at top so much. They'd rather see you on your way.
Yeah.
But that's something that's just kind of come to light lately too, is because when I was hearing that in different podcasts and stuff I listened to, I always found that kind of funny because I have always felt, and maybe this is just like my Americanness or it could be my own self-consciousness, but I almost always feel like when someone else has an accent, they're smarter than me and they know more than I do. They're funnier than me.
Yeah.
They're wittier than I am. So I don't know if that wittiness, which I feel like most Australians, I think just about any Australian or person from that side of the world that I've ever met was so much wittier than I am. Really, like it's like I don't know if it's part of the culture because of being defensive, because of that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because of
We
that
do
whole
tend
aspect.
to, Australians do tend to use a lot of sarcasm. We tend to,
Right, yeah.
It's like we kind of beat up on each other
Yep.
to like mess with each
A
other.
little more banter and-
I used to joke that, if I'm being sarcastic with you, it's because I like you. If I don't like you, I'm not going to bother.
Yep.
I'm not going to bother trying to make jokes with you and trying to make fun of you. But then that's kind of a little bit toxic too, right? Like if I'm making fun of you and being mean to you, that means I like you. That's so messed up.
Yeah, yeah.
So messed up. So I try not to do that anymore.
That's something has always, my whole life, been hard for me to work with.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's being sarcastic or if they're if it's their friendship style to go back and forth like that, it's always been really, really challenging. I have maybe one or two friends that I can operate like that with.
Yeah.
But I guess there are people I've gotten that comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I can give it back to them. But
Yeah. It gets exhausting though.
yeah.
That.
It can.
And then it's like, okay. Like I find that I get to a point where I'm like, okay, we can stop doing that now.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm all done with that. Stop.
Yeah, but it is a thing. I wasn't imagining it. It's actually
Yeah.
So I had already asked you if there was like kind of one rule you'd want to make, but is there anything else that you were that you wanted to talk about today, or that you were kind of like a question you maybe hoped I would ask?
I don't know. We've talked about so many different things.
We've covered a lot. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah. I feel like if I were to kind of
or what's one thing you'd really want someone to take away from
yeah, like I feel like if I was to kind of help someone weed out what are the things to take away from what we've talked about, I think the breath stuff, I think everyone can benefit from that. That idea of, just taking a breath before you respond, taking a breath for yourself when you feel yourself getting into these kind of difficult moments, taking that breath, and the type of breath that we played with, that idea of, breathing in something enjoyable, because there's multiple things that happen when you're doing that. Not only are you getting a really nice breath, but you're giving a positive image. You're creating a positive image and you're creating positive sensation in the body, which again is this kind of safety zone. So for the nervous system, it's really good. That's a big one, I think. And also this piece of, and this has kind of been infiltrated through most of what we've talked about, is the idea of really getting to know yourself, not in terms of just your personality, but what is your body telling you? Like when are you furrowing your brow? When are you tight physically? What's your body doing to influence the way you feel? Because it's such a huge piece to our inner climate, and something that I've learned in my years of therapy, not as a therapist, receiving therapy, just to be clear, is that when we have a feeling that arises in our body, sometimes that feeling is because of something that's going on in our lives. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just a feeling.
Yeah.
But what our brain wants to do is assign meaning to it. And that's when it can get really problematic, and when we can take ourselves down these really kind of negative pathways.
Mm.
So having this awareness of the body and just being able to go, I'm feeling this thing. Where is that in my body? Can I take that breath? Can I soften that? Does the feeling go away?
Mm.
Oh, it was just a feeling. And this is relative to nerves as well, right? And that kind of anxiety of speaking, because what often happens in those situations is we get this like, okay, I got to still myself.
And people do that exactly.
And this is exactly what they do.
Right.
And they're creating a physical climate of anxiety. Right. And so you can't breathe properly when your shoulders are up to your ears.
Clouds,
right? You literally can't function properly.
Yeah.
So that tuning in process of what questions can I ask? Well, can I breathe? If I can't breathe, something's going on in my body to stop that. So how can I release in my body to just allow myself to breathe and let myself have that reset? So breath, tuning into the physical sensations in the body. Mm-hmm. Those two things I think are gonna, for some people, perhaps be really critical.
Right. Well, we forget that we all know that the mind can affect the body, but we forget that the body can affect the mind.
Yep.
Right. And sometimes we can be active in that role reversal.
Yeah.
And that can be really helpful.
Yeah.
So I actually have a little, it's not like a final question, but it's more like, so what I wanted to have some kind of little tradition for every episode or interview. And so I really liked what he does in the Diary of a CEO, where he kind of has the last guest write a question. So I didn't make it a question, but I wanted it to be something that the previous guest leaves that the current guests can just kind of expand on. They can either give their own perception of it, or really kind of take it anywhere you want to go. You can completely disagree with it. You can just kind of, but I just want you to respond to it. So some of these have been pretty interesting. They have all seemed to really ironically fit the next guest. So the last guest wrote really just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words that we've all heard before. To thine own self be true.
Ooh. Yeah.
Does that take you anywhere? Anything you want to say about that? Yeah, right.
Well, I think it really harkens back to several things that we've talked about today. And this idea of, bringing yourself to what you do, whether you're an artist or not, knowing what your flavor is, knowing what your artistry is, knowing what your morals are, what your beliefs are. I think there are some really prominent, like famous public speaking trainers out there that say all this crazy stuff, and some of it I really disagree with. And one of the things that I have really disagreed with is there's one person who talks about, like, if you don't like who you are as a speaker, just create a new persona. And I really have a visceral response to that.
Yeah.
Because I think it's so antithetical to the whole purpose of communication as a human being anyway. And I feel like it's basically saying, oh yeah, you're not good enough. You should try and be like someone else. Pick your avatar and be more like them. Whereas I'm kind of like, I view it in a very different way. I think what happens for people who potentially feel that way, like, I could just never be that person. I want to be a speaker, but I just could never do it. It's because you can't picture yourself in that communicative situation. When we're in different communicative situations, there are actually innate ways that our body responds to fit those situations. So whether it's one-on-one or speaking to 20 people or speaking to 1,000 people. And for a lot of people, that instinct is kind of blocked.
Sure.
And so it doesn't feel innate and it doesn't feel possible. But if you can build that connection to thine own self.
Right.
And if you can build that connection to your literal physical body, to your voice, to your own perception of yourself, that can start to crack open. And then being in those different communicative situations doesn't feel so alien and doesn't feel so much like you have to be someone else.
Well, when you own it, like we talked about so much there, I think so much of that freeze is we're comparing ourselves to the things that we've benchmarked, right? That this is what I really aspire to, what I really like, and we're taking ourselves out of that and what is actually our truth or our essence, right? And we're trying to make it fit in a different box, in a box that it just wasn't made for. So I think that's such a valuable or a valuable tool that you gave about making it more about the other person, allowing you to be you and just owning that, right? But when you're too caught up in your head about what you think you're supposed to be, you're doing the opposite.
And we do show up differently in different communicative situations, and that's normal. That's you don't have to be this Brian in every single communicative situation, and it wouldn't make sense for you to be this version of you, because sometimes you have to be the leader. Sometimes you have to be the father. Sometimes you have to be the artist. And while you are the one common denominator, it's like, well, I need to employ these skills of communication in this situation. I need to employ these skills of communication. It's like there's all these, it's like what's leading, what's leading, as opposed to compartmentalizing, this is my speaking persona, this is my this persona. I, when I'm teaching in front of a class, I'm still me, but I'm a variation of me. It's not the same person I am with my kids, because that would be weird, but it's still me. So I think it's this kind of misguided sense of, oh, well, when you're doing that, you're not someone else.
Well, yeah, no matter what you're doing,
it's just a variation of you.
It's you, right.
So having that sense of, really building that to thine own self be true. It's a great, I guess it stood the test of time for a reason, right?
It's a long time.
But I think some people don't necessarily know or have the tools to access that and feel good about it.
Well, it's such a simple phrase. I will even admit that when I initially read that's what the guest wrote, I was like, gosh. And I was like, no, you know what? That's the profundity in that statement, is that it's such a simple statement, but has so much value per word. Right? Is it to thine own self be true. Right. And
if you really look at it and ask the question, what does that mean to me? Instead of just having it in a frame on the wall that you look at every now and then without thinking about it. What does it mean? Oh, am I doing that? How could I do that more? How could I give that gift to myself?
Is this really what I want to be doing? Is this really where I see my life going? Or because that's the only way you can really help anybody, right? Is if you're true to yourself first. If you're not being, then that's where people were stuck and lost and can't find their way out.
Right? And the more you can be true to yourself, the more it empowers others to be true to themselves.
Right. Yes.
Which is
100%
just invaluable, particularly if you're in a position where you are in leadership, or you are in facilitation or teaching or coaching, or anything where there are people looking up to you. It empowers people to go, I can do that too. Oh, I'm not broken.
And our kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Amy, it's been great. This has been so fun. Thank you so much for being part of this and for making the time, which I know wasn't easy when you have not one but two little ones. But what I learned having the second one is it's not like going from 0 to 1. Going from 1 to 2 is way more.
So much more. So much more. And you can't take it back. You're in it now. That's it.
Wow. And it gets thick. It's great. But Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Hopefully this all comes out good. Thank you. Yes. Let me give you a hug. Yeah.
Oh!
Awesome.